In the lands of the Phoenix is the Isawa Elemental Academy. It's this beautiful, sprawling place for learning and enlightenment. And you've each come here one by one. You each received a invitation that was finely scribed with like beautiful calligraphy from a Jade Magistrate to come to the academy and to present yourself. And so you've all kind of journeyed here from wherever you come from. It's a very long journey for if you're coming from the wall, from the Crablands. But it's Tsuyu at the moment, which is the rainy season at the start of the summer. And so you have been soaked for days, maybe even weeks before you get here. But once you get here, there's this really lovely, quiet peace in this place. Which one of you would have arrived first, do you think?
I believe I probably would have arrived first, being actually going to the school at the time.
Perfect. Yeah, so you would know it then, what it's like and the sort of peace and quiet of the place. And so you're going through your normal routine then, I suppose, going to classes from the Elemental Masters. And so for you, it's maybe not as exciting as the others. It might have been exciting to receive the invitation from one of the Masters. But for you, it's kind of more day-to-day stuff, and you're waiting for these other two to arrive from wherever they are coming from. I always forget what it should be the second name that I say. That's your first name, right? Yeah. So Udo, how did you arrive in this place?
Udo probably would have walked or by cart, traveling. As horses are pretty scarce and are a valuable resource on the wall, he probably would not have taken one from that. So it probably would have taken him the longest to get here.
Yeah, it's a really long way. You're basically crossing almost all of Rokugan to get to, this is in the very, very top, like northeast corner. But when you do arrive, you're welcomed very warmly, and you're given this like quiet and peaceful quarters to make yourself comfortable and kind of get acquainted to the place. It's odd because it's very quiet here. Lots of the students have taken vows of silence, and lots of the masters also. And so most of the people who you would see kind of as you're going around would just be silent, and they would like maybe incline their head or something. You would definitely see and probably feel sort of hidden giggles at the sort of uncouth appearance that you have compared to the finery of this place. And Shihei, you're coming from Dragonlands, is that right?
Yeah. So Shihei will arrive, I imagine with a much more ornamental fashion than the crab clan Udo did. He'll like make sure that he like rides in like on his horse, like in his lacquered armor. His hilt and scabbard of his katana are actually like decorated with this like gold filigree, this like very fine craftsmanship that he like won in a competition of like dueling that like marks him as like a skilled at least competitor, if not warrior. And I'll make sure that it's like displayed prominently like across the side of his armor, so that it's like visible to all to see, that his banners are visible for everyone to see, that it's like this kind of perfect pristine arrival of like a not honored guest, but somebody he's trying to appear as noteworthy as he imagines himself.
So then as you're like riding up to this place and like through the farmlands, you would definitely see the peasants stop what they're doing and like drop their tools and bow. Some of them even prostrate themselves on the ground in the sight of such a samurai. But eventually you like get into the actual place and it's much more relaxed here. The servants are students, and so they don't sort of bow and scrape in the way that you might be used to. But nonetheless, it's all very polite and all very correct, and you can't fault them on that. And as you would arrive, you'd be set to one of these quarters as well. And I think since Udo is last to arrive, when you are waiting one of the days, Shihei, you would see, or like walking around this place, because you're allowed to wander, you'd see this like group of maybe 30 students standing in a square, and they're moving in this like perfect synchronization, following one of these martial arts routines, kata, and the master doing it as well. And as they're doing it, you can like feel somewhere some like power, and you can like feel this like heat coming off the area, and then eventually they all kind of like stomp together, and there's like a fire for a moment. And I don't know how much of this you would have seen before, but it's something.
Yeah, of course, as custom dictates, he would like keep his face clean and smooth despite seeing this. Like in his mind, he can't help but like let the thoughts race. Just like the perfect craftsmanship of anything is as a beauty to any proper samurai, and like his art is that of like the sword. So to like see what's like to him on the same level but in such a different field, there's kind of this like respect but also confusion, and also some awe at what seems to at least be some sort of spiritual aspect to it, which he's not attuned to in the same sense that these students are, but he's at least like aware of that sort of feeling, and he can't help but like marvel at it internally.
The training will end, and there'll be like a deep bow from the students, and they'll begin to go off to their various classes. And you'll be, each of you then, approached by a student to tell you that you're to meet with the magistrate in one of the gardens overlooking the Torii Arch. There's this great archway that is built into one of the lakes here, and there's many bridges that cross some of the artificial rivers and canals that they've built around this beautiful temple. There's a particular sort of arched bridge that you would have definitely seen in your wanderings and maybe like marveled at, where you're supposed to meet this person. And so you probably meet each other for the first time on the way there, following these paths through cherry blossom avenues and like carefully curated gardens. It's all very neat and extremely like well kept. Nothing is out of place anywhere that you look, and there's a real sense of calm here, maybe like even supernatural calm here for those of you who aren't from here, as if there's like something imbued in the stone or in the trees that keeps a sort of clear head. And as you approach the bridge, you'll see that there's a woman sitting like on the rail of one of the bridge itself, and she's like playing this long stringed instrument, sort of staring out over towards the arch itself. She'll turn, seeing you standing there, not sure if you'd approach or not, and will sort of incline her head. Come closer. I don't want to shout. Not here.
Shihei will give a bow appropriate to whatever custom and like station that this woman holds, ensuring that he gives like the proper respect and the proper greeting before being told to approach further. He'll like stand up from the bow, making sure to bow before he moves, and then approach so that we don't have to disturb the serenity of a place like this.
Yeah, Udo would look kind of out of place here. Already he towers over, I mean, he stands over 6 feet tall. He's large. And most of his just burliness is exposed outside of what he has to wear of his station. But he would, he bows, but for his size, it doesn't look like, it's not a deep bow as he walks behind the dragon.
You might notice like the hint of a smile on her face at your uncertainty and maybe your lack of understanding of these sort of courtly ways, though she doesn't seem upset or offended.
Yeah, and I would approach the lady and I would bow. Honored lady, your humbled servant is here at your request.
You are all of you most welcome in this place of learning. It's good that you've honored my invitation. Dire times lie ahead, I'm afraid. In the mountains between our lands and the lands of the dragon, there is a monastery, Yamakage. Its master is Togashi Shenji. He's one of the most respected monks in all of Rokugan. He's taught here at our academy more than once. But a darkness has fallen upon him and upon the monastery itself. He's vanished.
A samurai that abandons his post is a shameful one indeed, and perhaps worse than shameful, perhaps evil in this case. Troubling.
That is what I have thought. There have been stirrings in the region, uprisings. He has always taught a radical school of the Tao. But this is not like him. Yamakage was a reliquary. A great many powerful things were kept there under his vigilance because he was trusted by all, from all clans. But one of the relics in that place is what concerns me, the Black Orb. In ancient days, my ancestors would bind power taken from other places, from the heavens and the Shadowlands, worlds above and below, and bind them into scrolls. And these relics were to be guarded, untouched and unread. But always, and she sort of gestures to the world, we seek power beyond our ability. Some of these scrolls were opened. The first black scroll brought the wasting disease to Rokugan. Many thousands died, and so it was with every scroll that was opened and read, power not meant for mortals. The orb was created by Isawa long ago to bind dark spirits that entered our world using the words of the kami. A warning and a symbol of humility, a relic of discipline, but it seems that even Togashi Shenji could not resist its lure. I fear that he has taken it, or that it has taken him. I want you to find him and deal with him in whatever manner is necessary.
If it is the will of the Emperor and the Magistrate that this is to happen, we will bring his divine justice down upon this traitorous man who's forsaken his duties, abandoned his loyalty. There is only one suitable punishment. If it is our will, our task to bring it upon him, we shall do so.
It will be dangerous. He's powerful, and maybe more powerful now with the orb, but it has to be done. It saddens me greatly for his much wisdom in what he has said, that now I must question all of that wisdom. Was it even he who said it? Or was it some spirit from beyond?
Was there no signs left at the monastery that would indicate his disappearance? Like a struggle or...
We do not know. I only know of this because someone escaped, a pupil of his, and he came here. He said that there was a great fight and that there was a lot of death before he and some of his acolytes, apprentices, disciples ran with many of the relics into the mountains.
This is dire news indeed. Would we be able to speak to the pupil that managed to get away?
I can have it arranged. He's taken a vow of silence. He's told me what he can. He didn't see much from what he said. There was a clamor and a fight in one of the courtyards. The master himself and some of the others, some of his closest students, favorites maybe, began attacking people, destroying the temple, and then they fled.
During this conversation, Udo would be just kind of stroking his short, or tugging on his short beard for a moment, just kind of listening. Forgive me, magistrate, but if this orb is as valuable and dangerous as you have said, and Togashi is as powerful as you say, then why only send us? Why not send more to quell this uprising?
It's a good question. You would laugh, but I saw it in tea leaves. That must be you. And they rarely lie to me.
It is not our place nor our station to question the will of the magistrate. He'll like say he won't look at Uda as he says it, but like it's clear, like there's a slight sharp tone in his voice to when he says it. If this is what we've been tasked with, we will follow it. There's no need for questioning such things.
You each have a part to play in this. You will see.
At that, Kimura would bow again to the lady. And he would be looking at, when that altercation kind of happened between Udo and Shihei, would be kind of looking at the two of them and kind of trying to gauge these two companions that have been destined for him at this time.
I guess it would seem like a strange selection to bring you three together. But she seems pretty certain that she's seen it in the tea leaves and that is enough. If you have no further questions, she'll say, and strum again on the instrument.
Shihei will look quickly to the others to see if they'll speak up, but if they don't, he'll bow again in a similar manner to when he had approached to begin with. Just say, "We will not fail you."
It is important that you do not. I dread to think what could happen if you do. And she'll like close her eyes for a second and then open them. I'll see you provisioned with horses and any gear that you need. Good luck.
Udo again would bow, take one step back before rising, and then proceed to back away.
So if there's anything you want to provision yourselves with before you go, within reason, you can do so. You'll have a horse if you don't have one. You'll be given one for the journey. You're going to be going west into the mountains that sort of connect, or that is the border between the lands of the Phoenix and the lands of the Dragon, sort of the greater northern wall, I think it's called.
I'd definitely say food or rations, so to speak, for a considerable amount of time that we're going to be that it would take to journey to this monastery.
Yeah, I mean, you would know, I think all of you would know that monasteries are like deliberately in hard to reach places that are like far from convenient to get to. And so it might take a bit of searching to find the place. But you could definitely provision yourselves with like lots of food. And if you want to take like mundane stuff with you, you can do that. But I think like they would draw the line at like fine weapons and things like that. But otherwise, sort of ropes, tents, things like that, you can help yourselves too.
Since time is of the essence, instead of wandering the mountains, would we not have access to a guide or someone who would know at least where?
Yeah, I mean, so there is a road that you will take from here that would go into the Dragonlands, and there's like a couple of passes through the mountains, and like Yamakage is like a castle, basically. It's like a monastery, so people will know where it is, and you would be given maps and stuff like that to help find your way. So it's unlikely that you're going to get lost, if you know what I mean. It's just a bit of a journey. I actually think that Shihei would have like gone through one of those passes to get here. Maybe a more southerly one, but even so, like he'd be vaguely familiar with the area.
Yeah, if it's bordering on Dragonlands, then at the very least, he might not have been directly on that path, but it would, I think, would be familiar enough with the surroundings that it would be able to at least pinpoint the general vicinity.
Yeah, so you would know of this sort of area. It's mountainous, obviously. It's really wet. It looks a lot like the sort of towering sort of stone that they would have in like Vietnam or in China. These like massive stone sort of mountains that aren't really mountains; they're just like huge rock formations, but there's trees on them. But that kind of territory, that kind of terrain, and you would know that like it's rich for like rice growing and things like that. And you would have heard actually, hey, of like trouble there in the last few years. Nothing like that the daimyos couldn't handle, but like sort of like actually, if you want to do like a check or something, I don't even know what the skills are. Is there like a history? Lore?
Let's see. As far as the scholar skills, there's culture, government, medicine, sentiment, and theology.
Government, then.
Alrighty, I don't have ranks in government, but I can still make one based off of the rings.
Okay. Let's say it's a 2.
Looks like recall would be an earth approach. you want to try to do that.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense for the scenario. Just trying to remember what I may have heard from my lord and other sort of messages in court and things like that. But since like that sort of thing wasn't directly my station, I wasn't privy enough to the specifics to know more. That's yeah. A success and a strife, but I'll just take nothing. Save the strife since that wouldn't get me anything anyways.
Yep.
I'll
So
keep the blank die.
maybe there's just like rumors kind of in the back of your brain of like there was trouble there of some kind with peasants maybe, but obviously like well in the ability of like the daimyos and samurai to keep down and in control. So is there anything else you guys want to do before you head off into your journey?
I think for Udo, he would just kind of be couple of things. Well, I mean, one, he would be kind of taken aback about the beauty of this land. Definitely a lot more beautiful than around at the wall. But he would also kind of scoff or shake his head, not so much at the students who are training, because training is important and it shows discipline, but anything that would be more leisure would be like, who has time to just sit around and, you know, play an instrument or paint or something like that. I mean, it's an art, but there are more important things to be doing. So he just kind of be like, must be nice, kind of, you know, that thinking of like, it must be nice just to be able to sit around.
There's a lot of that here. You would see like many people like underneath the shade of a tree meditating, or in groups sort of like drawing or moving together in like martial arts formations that are sort of, there's a lot of like instruments and music and like painting. There's a lot of that here. A lot of like what you would definitely see as like leisure activities.
Yeah, and when he approaches or once we like go back, because I don't imagine we were wearing our full armor here. We were probably just in our travel clothes or robes. But when he goes back and he gets his armor and he's ready for travel, you can see that Udo's armor, his armor is definitely that it's well worn. It's definitely well used. His daisho though is pristine. It doesn't look like it's been used at all, but hefting over his shoulder, he has his warhammer, which is basically just giant mallet, and that thing has definitely looked like it's been put to use.
I think that there's this like stark, total contrast between like Uda and then Shihei, who like also has his own set of armor, but like he's either never been like in combat with that armor on, or he's never been hit because it's like pristine. There's not a scratch. There's not a dent. Even like the painted marks are still like perfectly like ensembled upon it. There's like no single mark of anything being even a tiny bit off. It's like this like shining pure like perfect form compared to like the beat up things that Udo has.
And probably even more so as a contrast to the two of you is Kimura, who is not wearing any armor at all when he's ready to go. In fact, he looks pretty much like what he was wearing before, but maybe with a little bit more a well-worn clothes as for traveling rather than being at the school. Definitely not as well equipped as either of the other two.
So there's like music playing as you, and like this, they also have these huge drums in the temple here that are like played with martial arts, sort of like by shugenja, who like will use air sort of invocations to like play at a rate that's like very difficult for someone to achieve otherwise. And you can hear this like as you can see people like preparing and practicing and like working in harmony, and like the synchronization between like two different groups who are doing different styles, but they like sync up beautifully, like this sort of like wave dance. You sort of leave that behind you and go out of the gates and back out into the rain of the rainy season, and start to head west into the mountains. The journey is a beautiful one. This part of the world is like particularly gorgeous, and although it is raining, still there are like moments every now and then where the rain ceases and all of the wildlife becomes loud, and you can like see for huge distances up here in the sort of the highlands that would probably take your breath away if you're not from these lands. They're just stunning vistas everywhere. Everywhere that you look, every couple of hours you'll like turn a bend on the road or something like that and see this like huge, amazing vista in front of you, and probably take your breath away. Although the warriors among you will also know that mountains are very frequently the homes of bandits and people who are trying to escape the law. And so maybe that's more what you think of, Udo, than like the beauty of this place.
Yeah, I definitely would not want to run into bandits unnecessarily, but at this point, he would definitely think it'd be a kind of a sort of excitement from this just traveling.
Yeah, it's pretty tedious, and I guess you guys don't know each other very well, so it's also probably quite awkward. And you didn't exactly kick it off with like any sort of great fondness for each other, and so it's probably a pretty uncomfortable journey. You do pass this terraced rice field. It's like insanely beautiful design that like stretches down, and like there's rain that has just cleared, and so it's this gorgeous view. But you can see that there's peasants like working, and you're probably like a day or two into your journey at this stage. And one of them will like sort of stand up and like stretch, like rub at the base of his back as if it's quite sore, and then like see you passing by, and then we'll sort of wave. But you would notice that he doesn't bow and doesn't like put his face in the dirt like they do in other parts of Rokugan.
We are now in the Dragonlands. Is that correct?
You're in this sort of like twilight zone between the two, this like mountain. So neither clan claims the actual mountains themselves because it's like not really worth the hassle. And so there's like these couple of miles, I guess, in the middle that are ostensibly like Phoenix or Dragonlands, depending on like which piece of the place you're standing on. But it's not usual that peasants would act this way. I think you'd all know that. Like, you don't think there's any insult meant. It's just he's not showing the fear. And maybe like it's the first time that you've seen this and you realize that fear is like a really central part of every interaction you've had with a peasant in your whole life. And now that it's absent, it's like pretty noticeable.
Yeah, I think that there's like a moment where like Shihei like looks over to them and like does that like tiniest minuscule incline of the head that like people of higher station will like bestow upon people of lower, and then like wait expectantly, and then like when he doesn't see anything happen, he'll just like look to the others, and luckily for me, one of my disadvantages is bluntness, so I think he would just blurt out, "It's proper to bow to those who have higher station than you, yet you don't."
He like looks at the guy beside him and then back to you. Oh, and he'll bow. Didn't mean any offense, Lord.
There are some who might kill you for that, or punish you in some way. Luckily, I will not do that. It seems unnecessary. But you should keep it in mind when you see some folks pass through.
Yeah, he looks quite worried at that. Like no one's really spoken to him that way. And he seems confused. And he'll take a step back and then bow again, deeper this time.
Do they happen to have any sort of like a gourd or something that would perhaps have some sort of drink in it that they would carry on them?
The peasants?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think so. Maybe not alcohol, but they would definitely have something that they like across their back that they can drink from as they go through like this backbreaking labor all day.
Yeah, I think Udo would step off the horse, and he approaches these peasants. And again, just like one of his advantages is he's a large stature. So compared to most Rokuganis, he's a giant. So he kind of like towers over them, and he looks down, and he almost has like this stern look of as he looks at these peasants. And then he reaches to his side and he pulls this little gourd, which actually has sake in it. And he pulls the cork and he hands it over to the peasant.
So as you like are approaching, like the older man who had stood up initially, like looks quite worried, and there's a younger man next to him who will like step in front of him, which is like something I don't think any of you would have seen before in your life. The idea of like a peasant stepping towards you, because it looks like he was going to try and defend this man if you were going to hit him, which also is just crazy and really, really unusual. But then when like you like offer him the gourd, he sort of smiles. Oh, thank you. Are you sure?
And he just his stern look turns into like just this grin. He goes, "Yes, your back is probably as stiff as that one," as he just kind of looks behind him and motions towards the dragon samurai.
Thank you. He'll like take a swig and then pass it to the old man. He'll take a swig as well, and then he'll pass it back to you. And the old man will like rummage around in his little pack and pull out a little rice cake and hand it to you.
And yeah, he would like immediately just almost like in one bite, just take it. And it's just like, it's probably the best tasting thing he's had, as these like rations are probably just dull and unflavorful. And as he's chewing and everything, he gives a hard swallow as he takes the gourd and he washes it down. Have you seen any bandits or soldiers in the area of perhaps not normally around?
He like looks from you to Shihei and then back to you and sort of says quietly, "Lots of bandits around here. They're not bad to us. They're nice, actually. The lords wouldn't like them, but they're good people. They share like this."
You call them bandits.
You would call them bandits, Lord.
And what would you call them?
Opportunists, kind, helpful.
So they do not bother you. Who do they bother then?
I don't know. I'm not there. But they have a bad reputation, and I know that they break the law, that they steal things. Not me, he says quickly when he sees the look on Shihei's face. Not me, but they do. But there has to be a balance. And he gets this like look in his face like he's a little bit confused. Bushido, That's what you don't follow the way.
The way.
The way. He looks like at you, and it's like not meant in a mean way, but just like as if he's trying to explain it to a kid. The way, like, how could you not know this? The way that.
So with my scholar abilities, with the theology that I have taken, would I have potentially, I'd like to try to recall if I remember anything that I've learned about the way.
Sure. Yep, you can go for it. It'll actually just be a TN1.
Okay. So that would be Earth and theology. Okay, so the circle is a success, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I can only keep one. Okay, so I'll keep the success.
Okay, so you would know that there's a couple of different like faiths in Rokugan. There's the Kami no Michi, which is like sort of animism, an animalistic sort of, or animist sort of faith that's very old. And then there's the Dao Shinsei, which is sort of a more, it came with the Kami, and it was initially like thought to be heretical, and it's kind of in some ways in opposition to Bushido. It's a bit more sort of pacifistic and peaceful. And the way is a split off from the Dao Shinsei, which is a sort of maybe extreme pacifistic, sort of populist, humanist view of this faith. It is not allowed. It's like heretical.
Okay, good to know. So as I'm remembering this, none of this is crossing my face as I realize what we have just walked into. And I would just say, yes, the way. I recall now.
Yeah.
And I would turn to Udo and Shihei. Shall we carry on?
Hey, I believe so.
The peasant will sort of like nod, and then like it's more of a bow than a nod, but it's also not quite a bow. It seems odd because these people are like, they're not being shitty. They just like are not groveling, which is what you're used to. They're not even being rude necessarily, but you're just used to this particular way of dealing with people who are beneath you. So you can leave these peasants behind, and they'll sort of like wave politely as you go and sort of get back to their toil. And you'll have like similar interactions as you continue traveling through this area, where people are like polite and friendly, but not sort of fearful in the way that you might be used to.
Yeah, amongst ourselves, I think Udo would mention like to his two companions, like something along the lines of, I'd like to see them follow the way when they're facing goblins and Oni.
Yeah, and I think yeah, definitely through our little asides, Kimura would have, if you didn't know what the way was, he would have kind of informed you a little bit about what it was and why these people are probably not acting the way that we would be expecting them. Shihei is probably very quiet at this point because this is completely against.
Yeah, very much not his cup of tea.
Yeah. I can imagine that I'm probably trying to rein in his not so much frustration, but that indignation that he's probably starting to rile up with, and trying to keep the tone light as we travel through these lands and get to the Dragonlands.
Yeah, I imagine it was a bit of doing to stop him like riding forward and like severing the heads of those peasants. But you managed to get away, and the sort of day that you've traveled turns into 2 and then 3. And so you're spending your nights sort of sleeping beneath like the limited shelter of like an outcropping of rock, or beneath thick trees and things like that in tents. You haven't really found much in terms of places to stay, and it's not very populous here, you know, so you're not finding lots of inns and things like that. But maybe like the 4th day of your travel, you'll see like as it's coming to evening, maybe like late afternoon, you'll see that there's a house ahead, like a big house. You think probably a tea house or an inn or something like that, sort of like nestled up on this hill. And maybe like your stomach rumbles at the thought of actual hot food and like a bed to sleep in and a place to dry your clothes and things like that. So that's there ahead of you if you wanted to go there, where you can keep pressing on to try and find Yamakage.
I would totally vote for stopping at the inn or tea house.
Yeah, I think Udo, when he first sees it, he would make a big deal and he would just like point at it. And being that this is to him, this has just kind of been uneventful so far. He would kind of make a contest of it, and he would like immediately like slap the reins of the horse and try to get there first.
And playfully, Kimura would try to take you up on the challenge, but I imagine be completely outclassed by Udo, who's much more used to sitting on a horse and traveling this far for this long.
So as you like thunder up this like winding path that leads up to the actual inn itself, you'll see like a very frightened looking boy and girl who are like playing, like look up and like run out of the way as you like thunder into the sort of area in front of the inn. And then like when you stop, they'll like sort of like clap and they'll be really excited by the excitement of it. And the girl, who's maybe 12 or so, will like come over and look up and say, "I'll take your horses if you like."
I think as Kimura would get down and he would, not mockingly, but he would bow deeply to this little girl and say, "Thank you, my lady," and hand her the reins of his horse.
She looks totally confused and like a little bit like sort of blushes a little bit, and she like nods enthusiastically, and she'll take your horse and yours, Udo, if you'll allow.
Yeah, he just nonchalantly just hands her the reins as he's like beelining for the inn.
So she will. So yeah, I'll catch you up, Jeff. They talked to these peasants. They discovered that they were followers of the Way, which is like a sort of split from the Tao of Shinsei. Sort of a more humanist, pacifistic sort of split. And then they wandered for a few days, and they got to. They've just gotten to this inn along the road, where a girl has come up and taken their horses. So she would often take your horse as well. But you would also be aware, maybe you more than anyone, that she doesn't say, "My lord," and that she doesn't bow. She just like approaches and says, "Will I take your horse?"
Yeah, I imagine there's like identical proceedings to the time before, where he'll just like say, "You're supposed to address a samurai as my lord," and then just like expect her to do it, but like again, won't go like out of his way to be vindictive about it in any way.
Yeah, and I think at this time, because of the reaction of the little girl before, after Shihei has kind of turned and left, Kimura would kind of wink at the little girl before turning and following.
Yeah, she'll wink back and sort of laugh as she like leads the horses away, and you'll see like as they get around the corner, she like looks back and then she gets on the back of like the nicest horse, and like sort of pretends to be like she gets her back straight, and like her little brother does the same thing, and they pretend to be samurai as they ride around back there for a little bit before putting them in the stables, which in other parts like in Cranelands would get you killed just for sure. So you can come to this inn. It's still lashing rain, and you can see that. There's like this nice sort of porch out front, like a covered area, and there's a couple of people like standing out there, just like looking at the rain. They're obviously like guests. You can come inside, and it's nice and warm. It's dry, and you'll be welcomed by these two. Well, actually, just this one woman, who will like rush up and bow to each of you. Okay, most welcome, most welcome. Are you needing lodgings, food? What can I get you?
Our journey has been long. We require food and drink, lodging. We take the special.
Ooh. I'm afraid our finest room is already booked this evening, but I can provide for you our second best. And she like smiles and then looks down at the ground again and bows.
Whatever your best available will be fine.
Very good, very good. She looks a bit flustered and a bit sort of confused, and she'll like look over her shoulder, and you can see like you're basically in like this quite thin room, and there's like tables and stuff out here, but most of the people are outside. There's like a covered sort of courtyard with like an atrium basically. There's rain like lashing in the middle onto this sort of pond, but most of the people are sitting out there. And she looks over her shoulder for a second, and then back to you, and we'll bring you to this room. One for each of you, where you can put your stuff and you can change into dry clothes and stuff like that. And she says that she'll like take care of your clothing and stuff like that if you'd like. And we'll prepare dinner immediately.
Yeah, when once we change and are in the common room waiting for food and drinks, you can notice on Udo that like on his right arm, he has a one of those white headbands that you would normally, wear to kind of keep the sweat and stuff out. He has one. It's well worn, but he has one tied around his bicep. It's almost like a cuff to him at this point versus a headband on one of his biceps. And then hanging from his neck, as most of his like bare chest is kind of exposed in this loose robe, is this charm necklace, which has a lion kanji.
It's busy-ish for a place of its size. As you like come outside to where everyone else is sitting, you'll see that there's like a table. It's very loud, and there's 8 people sitting at it. And at the top of that table, there's like a big man. Now, not as big as you, Udo, but like noticeably large. And he has this pelt over his shoulders that looks like it might be a tiger skin. And he's like sitting, and all of his like all these men and women are sitting with him, and they're like talking very loudly and quite crudely. And occasionally they'll like bang the table when someone tells a joke, and they'll be like shouting for more sake and things like that. And so maybe it's not to your taste, but they're not like harming anyone or being terribly rude. Well, they're being rude, but they're not being rude to the innkeepers as such. And then another table, like a little bit further down, there's a couple of other people sitting here and there, but you'd see that there's a woman who has her face painted in sort of kabuki style, and next to her is this like man in full armor. It's like sitting there in full lacquered armor, sitting in that sort of extremely square, hands on the thighs, sort of samurai stance. And they both seem to be like sitting in silence, just like watching the evening as they like pour some tea. Other than that, there's like a couple of other people here and there, travelers and merchants and things like that, as it is like quite a busy pass.
Can we tell from his armor, like if there's any insignias or anything on it, like what clan he would be from?
Yeah, it looks like he's a Phoenix clan. So does the woman next to him. And you would think by the style of her clothing as well that she might be a shugenja.
And Shihei will hide his frown, more so at the noise than at the disposition of the crowd. It's like he's gotten so used to the silence back in the Phoenix Gardens that like now to be out about amongst such like rough noise is like grating to his ears. It's like annoying to him to be around again now. But at the same time, if you're like lodging at a common place, like it's not proper to like at that stage to like enforce like you're sort of out of your jurisdiction if you're gonna like stay at a tavern like this. He'll just like sit among the others, but can't help but start to like glance over towards this other samurai who like stands out. I imagine just as like much of a sore thumb as they do amongst the crowd of common folk. And he'll kind of just turn to the others and raise an eyebrow.
Yes, I too is wondering where they might be headed.
Pissed in his ear! And you hear this like cackling and this like from that table again. And then there's like this clink of glasses and like a downing of clearly a lot of sake, and then like more like clicking of fingers and like more. They're really quite loud.
And what does the samurai and the woman do when these guys become rowdy like that? Do they show any signs?
The woman is watching them, watching their table pretty carefully, although she is trying to look like she's not watching their table. Every now and then she'll kind of like turn her head briefly and like have a quick look and then like look back out at the rain. Samurai himself seems to be unmoving. Like I say, like in that perfect sort of samurai sitting stance, like hands on his thighs, back perfectly straight. He's just like looking occasionally, like he'll scan the room, but he seems to be unconcerned. Doesn't look happy about the noise, but doesn't look he's going to do anything about it.
Does this samurai have any family indicators, or just the Phoenix clan mons?
Nothing that would suggest or point out a specific family. Well, maybe it's like a vassal family, so I don't know if you would know it, but you could make me a culture roll with a TN2. Like it's not one of the great families of the Phoenix clan, you know?
Yeah. In that case, I think that I just probably wouldn't know.
Okay.
Like I'm not trained in culture, and if it's not like a primary family, then I'll just say that I don't know it.
Yeah, so you think it's like a minor vassal house, vassal family of one of the greater Phoenix families.
Could I try potentially to gain to figure out who, having lived with the Phoenix clans for a while, maybe analyze his armor and the insignias on it to see if I can figure out who he is?
For sure.
Okay. And you said it was a TN
2.
2? Okay, so I'm going to keep. It'll be 2 successes. What's the start? An opportunity and a strife. That's what I'll have.
Okay. So you're able to just about make out that it's the Sesai family, who are like a vassal of Shiba. A pretty small house. I don't know how much you'd know about them. They're quite secretive, and they're not like very famous for any particular thing.
Yeah, I probably don't know too much about the family, but I will mention the name softly to Udo and Shihei in case the name means anything to them.
It seems strange that they too would be venturing so far out, especially on the border of Dragonlands. Curious thing, at least.
I agree. And would we know anywhere like we know where we're headed? Is there any place else that people could be heading to cross this way?
Yep.
Or is it pretty much
There's a couple of like dragon castles if you go like up here in the mountains. If you go this direction and start to turn north, so like there's the Firetooth Castle, and there's a couple of other like castles in this region, which are like for some of the greater dragon families. It's possible that it could be going there. There's also like villages and towns and stuff in between in the mountains. It's not like totally isolated. The part that you were walking through was quite in the middle of nowhere, but you kind of, a couple of days travel and you'll be in sort of proper dragon territory.
so we've kind of come back into civilization-ish.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're still far out, you're not like anywhere metropolitan or ever, but it's, yeah. Like it is unusual that they're here.
Yeah, imagine like we're sitting at this table, and maybe the two of you are sitting on one side, Udo's sitting on the other side since he takes so much space, and you're sitting to where basically you're looking past Udo so you can see these Phoenix Samurai, and Udo is looking. Obviously, he can look over you two and see the rowdy bunch, and as you two are going back and forth about like who are these samurai and what are they doing here and stuff like that, Udo is just like he has this little cup of sake or whatever, and he goes, "I know what you're thinking. Is Udo stronger than the man in the tiger?" And he looks like he just after he says that, he looks at the both of you like seriously, like this is a question. This is something that needs to be answered.
And when we actually, I have the was it painful honesty? So asked a direct question like this. Looking at the two of them, which one actually looks stronger?
Hard to say. They're both big. Like Udo's probably the biggest man that you've seen. This guy's also like if Udo wasn't here, he would be the biggest man that you had seen. Like he's big, and he looks like he's got a big thick beard and like a shaved head, and like definitely not a samurai by the way that he dresses and the way that he acts, but a big guy for sure, and like built as well. So it's much of a muchness. It's kind of a guess at best,
So I would look at Udo, who's asked this question directly, and I would say, it is hard to tell who would be stronger, but you definitely have more training, would probably have the edge.
To measure a man by strength alone is a foolish choice. It has little measure on their worth, their skill. A foolish question to start.
And how would you measure one's worth?
There's not one factor. There's many. Strength can assist, but that is only one aspect. Speed, mind, craft, honor, beauty, many things. All of them together are the measure, not one over another. A samurai is to be held in all aspects. They must be everything, not merely champion of one thing.
Is Shihei, is he wearing his daisho?
I imagine he would be. He's quite proud of the ornamentation on it. So he would make sure that it's displayed. I think basically whenever it would be appropriate to, or as long as it would not be inappropriate to.
Yeah, they wouldn't ask you to take off your swords here. They're not insane.
Yeah, that he definitely would have at least his katana at his side.
And not making loud or anything, but Udo just kind of looks at you, Shihei. Looks at your daisho, looks back at you and into your eyes. Have you ever actually had to use that?
If you tried anything, you'd be dead before you could touch the hilt of your katana. You do not get decorations like this for nothing, for free. This was an earned prize, nothing less.
Well, we may need your skill before this journey's end. Let us hope that it measures up to the task.
And let us hope that your mind and your abilities are half as big as your ego and your muscles. Maybe you might be useful too.
And the woman comes out with your food and like places it in front of you. It looks delicious. It's steaming hot pork with rice and a sweet sauce, and like provides it, and then bows and heads back inside.
I imagine the food is a great diffuser of this like sort of tense build that's like happening between Uda and Shihei, of like this very welcome distraction of like a reason not to continue like escalating this like ego battle that they've now begun. So once the food is dropped, to like take his hand off of his daisho, like not even like consciously being aware that he had put it there to begin with, just like so used to this sort of conflict moving in this sort of direction. He would break eye contact with Uda down to the food. Say, well then, we'll need food if we're going to make it through any of this journey. The time for words is over. The time for food is now. Let's say, trying to like politely excuse him and Uda from needing to like fight this out.
Yeah, I have bluntless, so that's kind of probably sail right over Udo as he's going to eat, but he's just kind of like I don't know, glaring, maybe not glaring, but he's just like, he has not taken his eyes off of you. And he's just kind of like, food's going in his mouth, but he's not even looking at it. He's just focused on you.
Kimura would be doing his utmost to actually try and diffuse the tension between you two over this meal that we are now eating. He kind of was extremely happy at the timing of the woman with the food. So trying his best, he will try to get Udo's attention, talk to him about other things that interest the man.
There's this like of a chair being pulled out, and then the of this big man takes a couple of steps and like looms over your table and like looks at the food and kind of like pops his head over and looks. What did you order? Can I sit? And he sits in the other chair.
She will just like look up in confusion at this like person who's like dared to intrude on their dinner, with just like a look of disdain. And he'll like look to the others to see if they're gonna do anything about it, or if he has to be once again the person who's going to enforce some level of politeness around here.
Not a talkative bunch. I didn't mean any offense. Just smells really good. What is it, the pork?
Yes. We had pork. Did you not?
No, we had duck. It was really good.
You would recommend it?
Yeah, but yours looks better. Can I have some?
No, you may not.
All right. Thought I'd ask.
Udo looks at him and goes, "Did you slay it yourself?"
The duck? No.
And Udo would just kind of look at him with such like, ugh, and then like reach over and just kind of like motion at one of the tiger paws that's just kind of like hanging over on him.
He laughs. I know what you mean, friend. I did. With my bare hands. I was 9.
Impressive.
Fellas and a bunch of the other guys who are like watching this interaction are like, yeah, that's right. Yep.
Impressive. My friend here, and he looks over at Shihei. He believes that your big muscles make you too slow, that he could outdraw you single-handedly.
Huh. He maybe could. He looks quick. You'd have to kill me, though. Drawing me is not killing me. I've been through a lot, actually, and he'll like pull down like the front of his shirt and he'll show like he has this like gruesome scar that runs across his chest.
I'm quite good at both, it turns out. The drawing and the killing.
Me too. Mostly the killing. Not so good at the drawing. Don't have a sword. He looks across the table. Are you Sensei? He says to you, Kimura.
He's asked if I'm Sensei.
Yeah.
Before I answer, I would like to try to read his expression and his tone when he said that name.
Okay.
What is that? Would be
is there like an empathy or something?
Sentiment is the typical one of that space.
Sentiment 2.
Okay, so sentiment is a color. I don't think I have sentiment, but I will be analyzing his face. So that was air. Okay. I also have the ability, was it subtle observer?
Yep.
Okay, so what does that do? Sorry.
I don't know. I had it when I played.
Oh, so in fact, doing a sentiment air check to detect someone else's weirdness, I can re-roll up to 2 dice.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
So, okay, so I will roll and see what I get. And you said TN2?
2. Yep.
I'm going to re-roll these 2 dice. Okay, and I am going to keep yeah, I'm going to keep this exploding success. So I have to roll that and keep it, right? Is that how that works?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, it's blank. So that'll give me 2 successes with 1 strife.
Okay. So he's obviously been told to wait here for someone called Sese. And he has been over on that table, not looking in the restaurant, clearly for a long time. And he smelled your food, turned around, saw that you look vaguely sort of monkish, shugenja-ish, and was like, that must be the person, and just walked over here and sat down. So your impression is that this man is entirely impulse and almost no thought.
So to answer his questions, reading all this in the man that he's got no ill intent. No. Sorry, sir, I am not Sese.
Well, I won't disturb the rest of your meal. I hope you enjoy it. And he does a quick look at you, Udo, and looks you up and down, and then nods and goes to stand.
Udo just kind of looks at his companions and nods as if he's like come to an affirmation, and he stands as the guy stands. May I join you at your table?
Oh, yeah, sure, come on. And he goes over to the table, and there's no seats, and he just kicks the arse of one of the youngest members of the table, and that one quickly stands up and provides you a seat. And he'll sit back down, and he'll again call for more drink, and it'll be brought out.
And when Udo has gone over and has kind of distracted these two, and they become rowdy again, Kimura would turn to Shihei. They are looking, I'm assuming they're waiting for that man over there, that samurai. I wonder why they would be meeting.
He certainly seems to have misplaced him. He does not understand who he's looking for directly, and merely knows that there's a name that he must seek. A strange occurrence. Clearly, the samurai does not know either that this meeting is to take place, or she has at least chosen not to initiate it. Something seems strange about it. I do not trust that man.
Yeah, she has been watching them. Well, almost the entire time we've been here. Kind of not overtly, but she is keeping an eye on them. So something is going to happen tonight. I can feel it.
Perhaps we should try to speak with this samurai, see if there's a reason that he might be here. Especially if we have reason to believe that he is searched for by people like that. And I say that with a certain amount of disdain as he looks over at the rowdy table. And common folk are told to meet a samurai, and the samurai does not know it. It is rarely a meeting of proper repute. Perhaps there's reason to be cautious.
I agree.
So over at your table, Udo, one of the people is telling this story about how recently they were in like a rice paddy and there was a water buffalo and they were trying to get it out of the water and they couldn't do it and they had to like get all these people like in this big line to try and pull, and then eventually he was made to get into the water and push from the other side. And there's like this crude punchline to this story involving getting pooed on by a water buffalo, and everyone's just like in tears of laughter at the story. They've obviously told it lots of times because occasionally he'll forget something and someone else will tell that part of the story as if they were there. So whether it actually happened or not is a mystery, but they all seem to be having a great time laughing about it.
Yeah, Udo would join in as far as just laughing at the story, and would inquire to Zhang if he had like what brought him to this inn.
I'm supposed to be meeting someone called Sese. They reached out to us.
They?
We got a letter. I couldn't read it, but still to come here and meet them to discuss.
To discuss.
I don't know you, friend. Can't really say.
But he didn't indicate that this person was a samurai or a commoner. He just gave a name, right? As far as So I don't know. Like he could just be waiting for somebody, no reputation or anything. He goes, well, let us get to know each other then. And he would like reach into his robe and he pulls out one kuko. Is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah, I think so.
And sets it on the table and props his arm up for an arm wrestling match.
There's this big like, oh yeah, I think it is. I think that might be like a gold piece. I think it's Boo is the smaller currency. I'm not sure, but I think that's quite a lot of money. But you can put like an appropriate amount of money onto the table.
Yeah. Whatever appropriate amount of money would be here. So
yep, there's this big sort of like collective like oh from the table, and Zhang will sort of roll his shoulders a little bit, and then dump his elbow onto the table as well.
All right.
Okay, so let's do a fitness.
Okay.
And yeah, he's going to go fire, unsurprisingly.
I'm going to go earth because I want to withstand. I want him to like try, but I want to like not move my arm. Like either direction, just like hold him there. Even just let him try as hard as he can. I really want to know how strong he is.
Okay. Yep. Okay, so we'll just do like a roll off, I guess, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Oh, you rolled very poorly. That's disappointing.
Nice. So I can keep up to 3. I'm going to keep 2. And they're both explosive, so I will re-roll those. I guess I have to keep that one. So it's if it explodes again, do you keep re-rolling or you only re-roll it? No, you only re-roll it once, right?
I'm not sure. I think you might keep rolling it.
So if the result of the explosion is another exploding dice, then you can re-roll that one as well. Yeah,
Okay.
and keep all of them.
We'll do that.
It'll chain as long as it goes.
Got okay, so ultimately that will be I don't really want the strive. So I'll just keep the 2 successes.
Okay, he also gets 2 successes because he's in fire and has that strife. And so maybe it's like quite a long. He's much stronger than you would have anticipated, and much stronger than most people that you would have arm wrestled before. And so your usual sort of technique of like just holding them in place until they tire themselves out. He doesn't seem to have tired himself out yet, and he's still sort of like there in the middle, and there's like maybe a tiny movement towards your side and then towards his side, and it's quite even. And you can see like his muscles are like bulging as he like tries to push you down.
All right. Yeah, and as this kind of like back and forth, and the biceps are straining and the veins are starting to pop and everything, Udo, knowing that we've heard bandits are in the area, so I think he's trying to discern if he's a bandit. So do you mean this Shihei not Shihei, was it Sensei?
Sesai. Or
Sensei.
yeah.
Yeah, do you mean this Sensei ill repute?
Nope, just wanna talk.
Brought a lot of men for just talking.
It's dangerous roads out there. Lots of bandits.
So I've heard.
He's just like straining, maybe like starting to sweat a little bit. And like the table probably is like doing a little bit of like a vibrate from like both of your huge strength, like pushing down on it. Yeah, and he'll just continue trying to get there, but is struggling to defeat you. Probably the first time in his life. Do you want to do another roll to see if you can break this tie?
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh, that's. Ooh. He's done much better this time. Okay. So he's got 4.
Um, 4. I can only keep 3 dice, so. But I don't want any strife, so I guess, and if I have to just keep 1, then I'll keep 1. So, or 1 success, no strife.
Okay. So it's going for some time, and I think maybe like you're thinking of how to sort of trap him with words a little bit and get him to admit to being a bandit. And so your concentration slips for just a second, and that's like the second that he needs to like get that little bit of leverage, and then it's kind of like an avalanche. Once he's like starts to have that leverage on you, it's very hard to come back. And he eventually like gets right down to the edge of the table. You push back a little bit back to the middle, and then there's this boom, and finally he does it. And he just like jumps up from the table and it's like, yeah, like no humility in his victory at all. He just goes nuts and he like picks up some of the sake and like shoots it down over his face. Just like huge celebration. But once he's done like chanting and shouting and stuff, he'll like nod his head and sit back down and like pour you a glass of sake and put it in front of you.
Yeah, Uno would for a moment just have this like I can't believe that happened face, and then would just kind of like clasp him on the shoulder, as a like that was a good contest. Like it was fair. There was no underhandedness to it at all. So so he won fairly.
You lasted 10 times longer than anyone else I've ever wrestled before. I think you might be the biggest man I've ever seen.
It's not often that I meet someone of the same physical prowess. And the road has been dull, so I appreciate the contest that you have offered me today.
You know, we always need big men.
Ha! Unfortunately, duty must be served.
Yeah, Bushido. He sort of like nods to himself, and then takes another gulp of the sake. The other two, did you want to go and talk to Sese?
Yeah. I think after seeing this just shameful display on the part of our samurai friend, losing to a commoner, it's embarrassing. In order to like distract himself from like horrible sympathy shame that he's feeling, on behalf of Udo, he'll look over to Kimura, say, "We should speak with them. If you'd accompany me."
Yes. Let us go. And you can't see this because he's not showing it at all, but Kimura is actually amused by your response to Udo's defeat at the other table.
As you approach their table, the samurai will like look in your direction and then just like present a flat palm for you to sit if you'd like quite polite. And the woman will like turn away from her like reverie, looking into the rain, and towards the table.
Shihei will give a slight bow, acknowledging the other samurai, and then another one to the woman to sit down, and then he will accept their invitation to sit.
Kimura does likewise.
Interesting company here this evening, the woman will say.
Quite interesting, in fact. Strange place often invites strange people and even stranger events.
Very true. What brings you to this out-of-the-way place?
We travel on orders from Phoenix lands. And you?
Orders.
Kimura would have brought the sake wine that we had at the other table and would at this point offer these two some.
Yeah, she'll take a cup, but you see the samurai has not touched any booze at all, it seems. You're heading into the mountains?
We are.
Many bandits in these mountains.
They would be foolish to attempt anything on us. He'll kind of like nod down to himself and then over to Uda, like fairly confident that it would take quite a bandit army to like actually take them down.
They're organized here, though we've had no trouble.
Yeah, Shihei will kind of like look over to Kimura to kind of like see kind of with that look of like, I'm just gonna say it. I obviously at this stage I think you get the sense that Shihei obviously is fairly straight and narrow. So he'll kind of like do that acknowledgement of like, if you have any pleasantries to exchange first or questions, like now is your chance.
Yeah, and Kimura, when you look over at him, he just kind of gives you the barest of like nods that you would recognize that he is okay with you just going forward.
Yeah, Shihei like won't move his posture at all, but he'll like lower his voice still, trying to be heard less, but he'll like not compromise, I imagine, the same posture that the other samurai sits with. I hope it does not offend you if I speak plainly, but it seems as though the strange company that you have taken note of seems to have interest in you, though they do not seem to realize that's the case quite yet. They're looking for someone by your family name.
She does look offended. And the samurai will have to turn his head in your direction for a second. And then back to where he was looking. Looking for me. For us. But we are looking for them.
Yes, they came up to us and yes, mistakenly thought we were you, so.
Interesting. I suppose maybe all samurai look alike in some ways. The way that we sit, the way that we act, and that we assume that we are on top. What do you know about the way?
I know some from my teachings, not nearly as much as your humble servant should, but enough to know the differences. And you?
One of the central teachings is that all streams flow to the sea, because it is lower than the streams. And humility is power. If you want to govern the people, you have to place yourself beneath them. There's something about Bushido. When you desire something so badly, all other things become ugly to you. You cannot see a path that's different from your own as beautiful. We're blind in some ways.
All attention is a form of blindness. What you look at excludes all else. Yet sometimes those paths are the things that we walk for a reason, and that it would be foolish to distract yourself from them.
Why are you a samurai? Why are you following Bushido? Because you were told to. Because you grew up as one. So did I. So did my brother. So did you. And this man, she points at Udo. And you can see it in the difference in how we sit and how we stand and how we speak. And even how we look down our nose at everything. Is this the best system that we can have?
It is not our place to question the Emperor. It is what he's set up for us. This is the system that he was born into. What is one person to do against the entirety of culture?
But it is not one person. It is most people. The system that we have does not work for most people. If you're among them, the peasants, as we say, you would see that. A broken system. Most of them are poor, starving even, and we do nothing. This cannot be the correct way. If it doesn't work for most people, does it work at all?
And yet you have somehow reached some enlightenment, a greater path which you have deduced on your own, which succeeds all ideas that have come before it.
And she smiles at that, though the samurai next to her sort of stiffens. I have not come to this conclusion on my own. I don't claim to be enlightened. Others might claim that, others who follow this path. But it is unlikely, because the way is about humility, and understanding that the less powerful you see yourself, more powerful you are. And you have been sent to find what?
I imagine we're not at leniency to say. That's, yeah. Yeah, Shihei would just like shake his head. Official business.
The way you speak, how those with most humble have the most power. To me, that seems like what we are saying here is that the most humblest of peasants should be more powerful than the emperor, and that, you know, those thoughts should not be thought.
I spoke incorrectly. Power is not what matters in the way. And the fact that you would think that there are thoughts that cannot even be thought speaks volumes about your understanding of the world. What harm is there in thinking? And she sort of like shrugs ever so slightly and like takes a sip of the sake. I am saying that you or I are not inherently better than anyone else, or worse.
With that, I would agree. We strive to be, well, at least I would think we do, strive to be better than we were the day before. Not better than that person or that person, but our better selves each day.
And you have the luxury to try and attempt that because you were born rich. You have great luxury in your life that many never get the chance to even attempt. How can you better yourself if you spend every day in backbreaking labor trying to live a subsistence life? How can that be fair? There is plenty. There are castles, huge castles, massive stores of grain and rice. And we keep them there in case there's a siege. What about all these people who starve daily? This is not the best system, as I see it. And I think if we can help more people, then we should.
And yet it is not always the place of those who have the supposed power to have such influence. Yes, we are born into a higher class, whether you would say that we are deserving of it or not. It's irrelevant, but that does not mean that I have any more choice. I am still under commands, and the person who gives me those commands are under their own commands. And so it goes all the way. I suppose you think that you have a better system. If you're going to tear one down, you better have something to replace it with, or else there will only be blood and starvation.
All of the decisions that come to you come from one person, and they roll down. Shouldn't the decisions come from everyone and rise up?
Those who have no expertise to speak on matters should not do so. Most people do not know what it takes to govern, to grow, to lead, to fight. Why should they have say over things that they know nothing about?
No one has ever asked them if they know. Have you? Your daimyo? Ever? Have you spoken with peasants? Beyond bow? Beyond do as I say?
To become a master at something, You must have training, and yes, that training affords a certain privilege to have undertaken it. Yet if you do not have it, it is impossible to develop those skills. They have not been trained in it, then they have no understanding of it, at least not beyond intuition. Intuition cannot govern a country.
Maybe it can. We don't know. Never been done. I don't think it's likely, but I don't think it's impossible.
I think if you're going to attempt such a thing, you would have to cause quite a lot of chaos first, and death.
That is possible. Probable, even.
One might even say certain.
You might.
People of power are reluctant to afford any of that power elsewhere. In fact, power is much like those streams that you mentioned, at least in the hearts of men, if not in reality. But it is not downwards that it flows, it's upwards. Power is like the world that we all fall down to if we try to jump. The more that you have, the faster it comes to you if you exercise your influence to take it. Those people will not give it away for free. So if you were to undermine it, you would have to do so by force, and to do so by force would mean bloodshed. It's unavoidable. If you wish to break the system, you will have to break those who would control it.
Maybe we will have to do that.
A foolish task. An army of peasants against an army of samurai, and those trained in tactics and warfare. You would throw yourselves to the fire.
How many samurai do you think there are in Rokugan? 10,000? 100,000? How many peasants do you think there are in Rokugan? Millions?
And how many of those peasants do you think would genuinely fight to give their lives for a world that they would never see? Would they fight
think
with the
that
same tenacity of those who would be dethroned, unseated from their power, unseated from their castles, which have defenses, unseated from their warriors who have training?
How will they eat?
That question is not answered by a change in leadership. Those who desire power will take it. Regardless of what system they find themselves in, there will always be strong and there will always be weak. They might trade power from one man to another, but that does not free them from the system. It merely changes them to another one. The world would not be changed, at least
You
not in a
cannot-
meaningful way for these people.
You cannot see the possibility of change. You are set in what you think the world is. That's understandable. It doesn't have to be that way.
I'm no more set than you are. We're just set in different ways.
Should incline your head and take another sip of the sake and put it back down.
So you're here to speak with these bandits then, if that is what they are. At the very least, common folk. Pardon me if I spoke too soon or too rashly about them. They seem an unsavory sort, at least to my tastes. Is this about this system of yours?
They are rough around the edges. They don't understand manners, though how could they? They've never been taught them. We're going to speak with them about many things. But yes, a discussion about the people here in this part of the world. These bandits already do A surprising amount of good for them.
Yet banditry, even for good, is always at expense.
It's all a point of view, I suppose.
In this new world that you envision, where the peasants themselves hold their own power, who would guard them from outside forces?
I am not envisioning it. Thinking, dreaming maybe. And I don't have all the answers. But I do know that what we have now is not good. Not fair for most people. I'm not the architect of this thought, of this plan. I'm just here to speak with some bandits.
And what you're suggesting is treason. I'm sure you're aware. I do not need to tell you that that is what you have conspired to do, and that there are consequences for such things. You would not speak if you were not aware of them.
I'm aware, but I don't think you're going to kill me.
It's not my place to exact the Emperor's justice, unless it is his command for me to do so. I have no more power here than you do, or your samurai who accompanies you.
She nods. I knew you wouldn't kill me. She takes another drink and looks past you for a moment at the rowdy table and then back to you. So you know what I'm doing, what I'm planning. My great plan. What's yours?
We were sent to capture a traitor of a different sort. That is all that I can say.
There's some irony there. Catching a traitor, but leaving this one go free. She sort of smiles.
As you say, as you've said, we're, we're, we are at the call of the system that governs us, and we are given orders. We're to follow them. My orders are not to find you, nor to kill you.
But now
They
you
were.
have found me. I am a traitor. And yet still you must do as you're told. And let me go. This seems correct to you?
The severity of your crimes, conspiracy, at the most, pales in that of what we're in service to find. Each problem must be dealt with in according to its station of its own severity. You have not yet done anything other than speak words. And as someone who has caused much offense at the expense of my own words, I will not kill you for words, but I will kill this other man for the crimes that he has done. They're much worse than words.
What crimes are they?
I'm not at liberty to say.
I see. in the silence, there's like an old man who like walks out into the courtyard, and like under one of the shelters, as the rain plays, he begins to play a Yamato gato, just like this sort of long sort of slide string instrument. He starts to play that in the rain, or like under the shelter in the rain, and the silence stretches.
I will have to tell my lord about this. I'm sure you'll understand. You're going to try to kill me before I do. I suggest you try now.
I would rather you didn't tell him.
You'll have some time before I'll be able to. It's a long journey, both there and back. You'll have quite a head start, I imagine.
That's unfortunate. We had a very good conversation. You were willing to engage in it, at least, although your mind is still very set, unwilling to look at different possibilities. I did enjoy that.
There's no reason that it cannot stay as conversation, at least at this point in time.
But you will go and you will tell a lord, and he will tell his lord. And then before this...
And you will go and you will talk with a bandit, and he will talk with another, and deeds will pass on. We do not know what the future will hold.
But there is secrecy in this. She takes another drink. And the samurai in the chair sort of like turns his head ever so slightly to look towards you, Shihei, and keeps his gaze on you.
Yeah, Shihei will like take note of the glance, and not ignore it, but kind of keep his eyes like trained, kind of in the space between the two of them. Prepared in the event that he's attacked, since he thinks that that might be likely at this point. But like worried that if that is what happens, that the people behind him will probably be less honorable than the man in front of him is. So he'll stand and like take a couple steps around kind of this table that they're at, so that his like back is to the wall and not to like the crowd. It says, I do not know how much words we have more to speak to each other. Otherwise, I think it might be best if we take our leave.
Dun, 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 dun. This thing is playing in the distance, and the rain is like pelting down. And she like looks in your direction. I don't think I can allow you to take your leave. What a shame.
And suddenly the power that you claim people exert unrighteously, you would do so of your own accord against me. Strange how those who desire to spread power will so exercise it when it suits their beliefs.
You would see an end to this before it is birthed. And I can't allow that to happen. I have no ill feeling towards you. I quite like you, actually. But we all have our roles to play. Let's eat something first. I'd rather enjoy a dessert before I go or you go, if that's going to be the case.
Shihei will just nod, still kind of keeping the cautious stance, and more importantly, like the location that he's at this stage, making sure that the crowd is on the opposite side of the two of them, kind of in this miniature confrontation. but he won't take any sudden drastic actions until it seems like one will be taken against him, and he'll allow this small courtesy.
She'll like raise her hand, and the innkeeper will come over and she'll order like a couple of sweet sort of berry desserts to the table, and like sit sort of quietly waiting. And when it comes, like her and who is clearly her brother will each take a bite or a mouthful, and you'll see that like she especially like really takes her time and enjoys it and like savors it, and then will like slide the plate across to you. Better to go with something sweet.
Chihei will hopefully not foolishly trust that this is an honest gesture of like not good faith, but of like sharing before what's likely to be someone's final confrontation, and will assume that these have not been like carefully poisoned, that she's like picked around, and will take some small piece of it himself. Might as well enjoy the small sweetness before what will likely be something quite bitter.
And so the music will play, and there's this like moment of savoring, and on the other table there's like this and we're going to take a break there before we get into what is going to be a very nasty fight, I think. So thanks very much so far. I hope you're enjoying it. We'll be back in like 5 minutes. All right, gang, I'm back. That was fun. Got embroiled in some philosophical discussions.
It's tough because like I, as Jeff, like quite like this woman,
Yeah.
and I'm like totally down with what she's spitting. But like, and even in character, I think that there's some level of like genuine respect.
Mhm.
But at the same time, there's just a point where you're on opposite sides of a line, and there's nothing you can do to
Yeah, and the
change
line
that.
is so thick in Rokugan as well. Like Bushido and
Yeah.
like that code is like so ingrained with like a caste system almost, you know. So it's it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Not to mention that the Emperor is like
A god.
a half step below like literal gods.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like saying that you're planning to revolt against the Emperor is basically just like cursing the entire existence of like all
Yeah.
proper being in like one fell swoop.
So yeah, you've eaten this little tasty dessert, this like cream and berry little cake. And then she sort of like looks in your direction and says, "All right then. Nice to meet you." And the samurai like turns to look in your direction, but doesn't say anything.
A pleasure to meet you as well. And that's no politeness. In truth, I mean it. It's a shame that we must be opponents.
But we must be. And then we're going to roll initiative.
So, because it kind of matters. Is this going to be a duel or a skirmish?
It's going to be a skirmish because the bandits are going to get involved as well, and so is she.
Okay, I figured that might be the case. Yeah.
Yep, I do want to do a duel, definitely in this 3-shot, but not in this particular situation.
Yeah, that makes sense. Regardless, because it works just the same one either way. One of my advantages, being such a marked duelist, is quick reflexes. So basically, I can start a scene with my item like already considered to be in hand, and I can re-roll dice that relate to that. So I'm definitely going to take advantage of that for initiative.
Yep. So you draw your sword at like blinding speed before anyone else has even stood up. So we're going to roll tactics, I think is how this works.
Yep. So it's your tactics plus your ring plus either focus or vigilance. It's kind of the similar system to Star Wars, where focus is if you're expecting conflict and you're prepared for it, where vigilance is kind of the unexpected brawl.
Yeah,
and you just add that as like a flat number to the total result.
Yeah, so you'd be using focus definitely, yourself and Kimura. But I think for Udo, who's on the other side and has no concept of what's about to go down, you'll have to use vigilance.
So when you said ring, this is what we're picking, the starting stance that we're in? Is that how we choose the ring?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
for
I think-
initiative, the ring that you use to roll initiative, Jesus Christ, initiative is also your starting stance until your turn where you can decide to change. But until that point, it will be.
Okay, okay.
Okay, what's that? So this is a big combat. I've never done this before. I'm like, oh god.
Yeah.
All this stuff.
If your vigilance is you round up or down?
I don't know.
I believe it said always round up.
Okay.
And anytime you have to round.
Got it.
Okay, so she's gonna go Earth.
So ring dice, tactics, and vigilance adds what?
It's just a flat number. So
Oh, it's a
however
flat
many
number.
successes that you get, you'll add that as additional successes
Got it.
automatically.
So are we like keeping dice as well? And if we get strife
all
on
the
this
roll is
roll,
just as normal. Yep.
You're making
Yeah.
a tactics roll basically and adding your focus to it.
okay. So you can choose not to take one if it's just has a strife on it, right? Like in Nooks.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then perfect. That's what I'll do.
That's okay, and then he's going to do this. Oh, this is so unlike. I didn't prepare my initiative, which I usually do with everybody else, but I didn't. In other D&D games, I always do it. Okay. Okay, so we got 7 for. Okay. 5. And what did you get, Udo?
Sorry, we're still rolling.
Oh, good. It takes a little bit of getting used to. Okay. All right. So Samurai goes to stand and will draw his katana. Is that an action? Probably, right? If you have a thing that makes it not an action, then I assume it is.
I know it's at least some level of economy to do so. I don't know if it's like the maneuver or the
Probably
or
maneuver.
like a full action to do so.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll
But
call it.
I'm
I'll call
not
it
totally positive, yeah.
and then I'll just have him start swinging. He's going to strike at you. He's going to do so with his swords. No. Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, sorry.
I may have an ability real quick, just in case. Let me remind myself what it does. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to use my Way of the Dragon school ability. So once per round during a duel or skirmish, this is a skirmish, when I'm targeted by an attack check, I can use a melee weapon to ward or trap his attack, which I'm going to ward, which means that he'll have to re-roll 1 success dice.
Okay, cool. I'm trying to figure out this stat block, and I think I have it figured out, so I'm just going to go for it. That makes this guy like a lot birdier than I thought he was, but we'll see. Okay, so he has to reroll 1 of his successes. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And do I just pick, like, because he has a success and a success with a strive. So I pick or you pick?
I think you pick. Because I would pick if it was my...
Yes.
If I was re-rolling.
Okay, so he will re-roll this success and this one. Okay, so he gets 3 and 2 advantages. God, I actually have no idea how to run this game. I'm like realizing it now. I'm just like, I don't know what's happening. Okay, so he has 3, which I think it's need 2 to hit in melee, or maybe that's Star Wars.
No, that's still correct. So yeah,
Okay.
2 of those will go to hitting me. The additional success will deal an additional 1 point of damage.
Okay, so he's got his katana, so that'll be 5 damage. Yeah, yep, that's all the important stuff there, I think.
And I guess I don't think I would be in my full armor. I don't think that I said that I had kept it on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys had come in and like changed into like comfortable clothes because it was soaking wet, everything.
Yeah. I think traveler's clothes is probably reasonable, which is 2 defense, which means I'll take 3 total
Yeah,
points.
so he stands and he like pulls the katana and like does an upward slash, maybe like grazes your right shoulder a little bit, but it's not like a devastating blow. And that's him. And then we go to oh yeah, okay, so Oru. This is the complicated thing because she is going to do some magic. Good thing that last one was so simple. Okay, where is she? Here. Okay, yes, that's right. So she's going to begin chanting and moving around her arms in particular motions, and is going to, yeah. So she begins to like move in this form that you're not familiar with, and you wouldn't have seen before, Kimura, which maybe strikes you as odd. It's not like an elemental channeling at all. There's a lot of like her hands are sort of shaped in this like claws, and she's doing a lot of large movements and finishes with like a stomp. And at the end of it, there's this like, and so I need. Well, she needs to make a theology check. Okay. And then I need your vigilance, Kimura.
Okay. My vigilance is 3, but I'm also in the air stance. I don't know if this matters. So it's a +1 to the TN of any attack or scheming checks targeting me.
Yes, absolutely, it matters. Great. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Jesus. Okay, so she needs a. So she needs a 4 successes to get this on you. That's nice. Air stance was a good choice. Okay, let's see. What's her theology? Okay. It's not a good roll. 1, 2, 3. She will re-roll these 2. Oh, now it's good. Okay, so she does succeed, and you feel these like spirits circle around you, begin to like whisper, like infuriatingly and maddeningly, in the back of your mind. She's going to incite a haunting on you. So she's cursed you. You have the afflicted condition, and I'll tell you in a second what that means. But Shihei, it's your turn.
Shihei will like hear the words, no, he's not the one afflicted by their power. Like in his mind at this stage, like if she's gone treasonous against the emperor, who's like a god, and like the kami, endorsed the emperor that this lady must be using like dark spirits to wield her magic, because she's like abandoned the good side of it, like even if it's not true, literally, like Chihei in his mind will like believe it. He'll take out in his side hand, he'll like slip the wakizashi out in his left hand as well, to prepare it, and he'll kind of like use it as like an anchor to rotate around the side of Otomo, and we'll try to like cut this dark magic wielding woman down with his katana. And this is this is gonna be painful. So that is 6 successes.
Shit.
Fire stance landing a couple bonus ones
Nice.
to me there.
Okay, so once per scene, when an attack action check targets another character within range 0 or 1, this Bushi may intervene, becoming the target. So he throws himself in front of your strike, and will take the strike for her. So if you want to give me the damage.
Okay, yes. And there's gonna be another thing too, because I have some opportunity.
Nice.
Ooh, okay, that's good. So 6 successes, katana is
4, right?
4. Yeah. So I'll so that would be 10 total minus whatever his physical defense is.
Okay, so he's got lacquered armor on, so he'll resist 4 of it. He'll take 6.
All right, so six direct damage, and then I'm going to use I think it's 2 opportunity. Sorry, I'm trying to remind myself of all the rules here too now.
Is this to like figure out if you have a crit or not?
Yeah, I'm gonna inflict the critical strike on him.
Okay. So let's figure out how that works. He makes a check.
Okay.
Remember to
All right,
resist.
so I'm going to use. I have an ability. So because I got 3 opportunity, I think it's 2 to inflict a critical hit. And I'm going to use my strikes as fire ability, which allows me to use extra opportunity to increase the severity of the critical hit by 1 per. So it will be an additional 1.
Okay.
So he'll need to make a fitness check, and basically, he'll lower the severity by 1 for each success above a TN1 fitness.
Okay.
Basically, however many successes he get, it'll just reduce the severity by that flat number. That's what it evens out to.
Okay, so he gets 2.
Okay, so the deadliness of a katana is 5, plus the additional severity from strikes as fire will make it 6, minus 2, so severity 4 critical hit, which is... God, this is so complicated.
Yeah.
So complicated when you don't remember it. Like,
It was grand. Like I've played the shit out of this game and then I knew it, but now it's like all gone. I've been replaced by brutal wound tables that I've been writing.
okay, I've almost got it. So 4. So this is a flesh wound. The hit sinks into the character's flesh, slicing shallowly. Oh geez. Okay, that's good. So he's gonna get a lightly wounded condition for the ring. Whatever ring he used to resist that, to make that fitness check, will be damaged. It'll be lightly wounded. And because the attack was a katana, he will also get the bleeding condition, which is real nasty.
Yikes. Okay.
So bleeding says whenever the character makes a check, they suffer physical damage equal to however much strife they keep, ignoring any resistance.
Damn. That's very nice.
And each time damage inflicted that way causes them to suffer a critical strike, the severity is treated as being equal to the character's current fatigue. So if he suffers a wound, it'll add his fatigue to the severity.
Okay. Yikes. So that's a
Yeah, so like lunge forward, like twist, go to like twist around him to like get at this woman spouting her dark magic. But like the man is faster and he doesn't expect him to like lunge forward, so he'll just like lunge with the katana forward. The man will like just make it in front, and I imagine just like pierces right through, sliding between some of the plates of the armor, or like maybe even piercing part of it. And we'll just like give him a nasty wound. Blood will begin to like pour out of the space in the armor now. From the wound, and Shihei will just kind of like look over in surprise that this man was fast enough to like intercept his strike, but know that he's like dealt a powerful blow, and he'll just bring the wakizashi up in ready to deflect a return strike.
Yeah, he lets out a grunt of pain, which is the first noise that he's made since you've seen him. And it's Kimura next.
Okay, so I just want to get this straight. Range bands. 0 means you're engaged. Is that right?
Yeah.
Like you're right.
I think it's a little bit different in this game because there's like a couple, like a spear is also like.
So 0 is like literally like you could hug them. Levels of close. Range 1 is like close enough to attack with a katana. So it's like within like engaged, but not like incredibly close. Then
Right.
2 is when you start having actual like distance, like long spear range.
Okay, so yeah, I'm going to. So my thing says it's going to target each other character at range 0 to 2. So this is probably going to hit Shihei as well then. Is that, yeah. Would it be possible for me, no, I guess, well, me to move such that I could grab, like I'm imagining like there's the table and we were around it, and now the samurai has closed with Shihei and
Yeah, so the three of like, because Shihei had like moved around to the wall, and so now that's where she was too. So he's moved next to where she is, and then the samurai has run over to intercept the strike. So they're all kind of standing they're all in like range bound 1. They're all very close together.
Yeah.
You're on the other side of the table, you know.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Shihei, but I am going to. You're going to just kind of take friendly fire on this one. I'm going to start basically yelling with like the fires of the retribution, and the cleansing fire is going to go off, and this is a TN1 fire check, and it targets all of these. It's an action attack, so I guess I have to change my stance to fire. And if I succeed, then each target is smited with a burst of fire. They'll suffer the daze condition and have to do a resist.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll get to all that. Okay, so TN1 theology fire. Okay, so 2. Okay. And I have the afflicted one, so you get to change one of my rolls if you so choose.
Excellent.
And I think it happens when after I keep dice, I believe, is what it read.
Okay. Right, that makes
So basically you can change one of so it's only the ring dice. He can't change your skill dice, but he can decide to make a ring dice into an automatic opportunity and strife.
Okay, so but I am also in the
would be it's instead that, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm in the fire stance. I get to keep 2 dice. I'm going to keep my skill dice, which is a success and a strife, so that'll be a bonus success. And I'm going to keep, well, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to keep the success dice on my ring, so you could change that one if you want to a opportunity and a strife.
Yep, I'll do that.
Which also will count as a success. So that'll be. So I guess I take the strife damage, right? Like the strife, but I will have 3 effective successes.
Yep.
And an
so you get the
opportunity,
strife,
right?
but they also count as successes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So 3 successes and an opportunity. I don't know what opportunity. So much stuff here.
Yeah. Usually with the rituals, there's like suggestions on how you can spend success or opportunities.
Yeah, I did write that down. I don't believe this particular one does not have any new opportunities.
Yeah, so I guess no dice.
So
there's just the general opportunity table as well.
Yeah, I think I kind of like that. So I got my opportunity. I will use, this was an attack action, so I'm going to increase the TN of the next check that the chick makes to resist a critical strike.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what I'll do. And 3 successes is... So each target will suffer the daze condition, and now they must resist with a TN3 fitness check. And I don't know what this means, air 4, water 1. or suffer supernatural damage equal to my fire ring plus their shortfall and gain the burning.
Okay.
So what was the regular TN? Did you say?
TN3.
3 fitness.
Yeah, so basically the other numbers mean if you're using that specific ring, that you'll either increase or decrease the TN to that number.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I'm using fire as well right now, so I don't think that will matter.
So you'd be at TN3, yeah.
Okay, so the samurai was in water, so I think that actually matters in this case.
Yeah, TN1 then for him.
Okay.
If that's the same stance, his ring is damaged from the
that's right.
bleeding.
Yep.
I don't think.
So he'll have 1 less, right?
I don't know, to be honest.
He has 1 less. Okay, he will succeed. I think that she's in a lot of trouble, though. She does not have any training in fitness. It's a TN1?
For water, yeah.
And just generally, it's 3?
3, yeah.
So she
And
fails.
if she... Sorry. She fails?
She fails and he succeeds, yeah.
Okay. So those who...
I will succeed exactly with 3 successes as well, but take a stripe for the trouble.
Okay, so those who succeed will just be dazed. Those who failed will take 2, because that's my fire stance, plus whatever they were short on that roll.
Okay.
So she failed by whatever. And she'll gain the burning condition as well.
She was short by 2, and she'll take 4, and then burn.
Yeah, so she'll be dazed, burning. Dazed and burning. Awesome. No idea what that means.
Yep.
And then I believe I can still move, right? I'm going to move towards Udo.
Okay.
To hopefully get his attention. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's definitely the case that everyone at that table turned to look when the haunting began, and then immediately afterwards there was this of fire that like sprung up. I imagine that like the table has gone aflame. Thankfully it's raining, so the roof won't catch on fire. But there's like this massive display of magic, the power of the kami and the elements. And there's everyone at the table stands up all at the same time, and Zhang is going to like look at you, Udo, and see that there's fighting happening. He doesn't know if you're involved or not. Doesn't really know what's happening, but he can see that there's like magical battling happening across the way, and does not want any part of it. And so he's going to like draw or pick up rather from under the table. He has this like 2-handed club. And he's just gonna like hold on to it, and he's gonna do nothing. He's gonna like look around and basically prepare himself for what follows. And then it's your turn, Udo.
All right. Seeing my companion, because Shihei is pretty much surrounded, or not surrounded, but he's engaged with 2 samurai at this point. Is that correct?
He's engaged with samurai and a shugenja. Yeah.
Shugenja. Well, yeah. All right. I am going to. I guess I'm just going to go ahead and move in and attack the samurai.
Okay. Yep.
So yeah, I imagine like he just kind of barrels through as he like moves, just kind of rushes in to engage with that other samurai. I'm going to go ahead and make a well, I guess I would need to. So I guess I would draw my. No, well, we're in a room. Katana's a little too big for. I guess I would draw the wakizashi.
You're kind of out on a porch.
We're on a porch.
Porch.
Sort of porch courtyard area, you know.
Okay. Well, I guess I didn't state such, but I would imagine he would keep his hammer with him. So I guess I would use, or he would get that and go attack. Okay, so I will make a martial arts melee. I'm in earth stance. Roll the dice. Okay. Exploding. All right, so so it's 3 successes, 2 strife, 1 opportunity.
Okay, so what's the damage for the hammer?
It's 8.
Oh my god. Okay, that's huge. So it's I was not expecting you to say 8. So it's going to be 9 then, and he will resist 4 of that, so he'll take 5.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and spend my opportunity in striking earth and increase my resistance up until my next turn from 4 to 5.
Nice. Hot damn. Okay, so he's been like slashed with the katana and then this insane like strike with the hammer. Very effective against his armor. You see him like buckle to the side and he looks like he's in very, very bad shape. The bandits are going to look to Zhang, and Zhang sort of shrugs and starts running in the direction of the fight, and they will follow. They're all going to rush over here and get involved. He sees an opportunity and he's going to take it. So I'm going to have Zhang and the bandits go because he kind of held his action. He wasn't sure what was going to happen. So Zhang is going to rush up and he's going to... Where's Zhang? So many stat blocks. He is going to rush up and he's going to try and smash you, Udo, when you're not looking. With his... Yes, okay. So we're looking at... He's going to go for fire because that's all he is. He's just purely an impulse.
All right. So while I'm in earth stance, you cannot spend opportunity to inflict critical strikes or conditions on myself.
Okay, nice. That's good news because he does have enough to crit you. That's unfortunate for him. So he only gets the 2 successes, but he gets 4 advantages. So he will try and do something else with those. Oh, he has a thing. So he's going to spend an advantage, 2 advantage to both have Kimura and Shihei suffer the disoriented condition. He basically like rushes over, and as he like swings this club into the back of Udo, he then like reaches into his pocket and like throws this this like glassy dust in your direction, and it's going to like cause you to cough and choke. So you're both going to have the disoriented condition, and then that's it. Oh, I have 2 damage for him. So he has the same thing that you have, which is big hammer, although it's not quite as nice as yours. So you're going to take 6.
So it'd only be 1 after my resistance.
Yeah. Well, you're not wearing your armor, right? So I don't think.
So is normal resistance 0?
I assume so, yeah. But you'll still resist
We
1
have
because
travelers. We have travelers' clothes, which I imagine that we would be wearing, which is 2 soak.
Okay. Yep.
2. Okay, so 3. And you said 6, so I'd take 3 fatigue. Okay, got it.
Okay. The bandits, they're all going to start. So 3 of them are just going to like pull out these slings and from the outside just throw them in. So 1 at each of you. These guys are not very good. They're also going to go fire. Okay, so 1 of them whizzes by your head, Kimura. And another one whizzes past your head, Udo. Oh, but you, Shihei, are going to get hit with this sling. for 3 damage, which I think you might just block.
I'll still take 1.
Yep. So this like glancing blow maybe like catches you in the thigh. It's like quite painful, but not the end of the world. The other 3 are going to pull like knives and things like that and rush forward, and they're going to try and take down the giant bear that is Udo. Miss. Oh my, that's a big hit. One gets 5 successes. You have 2 explodings. But I don't know what the damage of the knife is. So it'll be 5 damage from that knife. So 2 plus the 3 extra successes. So I think you'll take 2 from that, Udo. And the third one misses. So all these banishers like rush forward and try to hack you down, sensing that if they save these other samurai who were like talking loudly about changing the world, that they might have some sort of hope and get in good with them. Okay, so we're back to the top. The man is playing now the this like long sort of slide guitar quite loudly, and in the rain, he like picks up the pace. He can like sense that something is going on. He can feel it, and so he's like watching intently. The innkeeper is like looking out, and like her hands are here on top of her head. She cannot believe this is happening. She was really hoping this wouldn't happen when you guys walked in, but she sensed like samurai and bandits in the same place, and she's like very upset and worried, but too scared to say anything. So Otomo is dazed, and that means
The TN of his checks are up by 2
okay.
for attack actions. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. He is actually going to go into the guard. How do I do that? There's like a guard action, and I want him to do that, but I'm just not entirely sure what that means. I'll look it up in between, but he's going to get in the guard action and stand in front of his sister and try and protect her. She is going to. Where's her stuff?
And she's currently on fire, remember, as well.
She will take 3 damage and 3 strife, I think, right? Yeah.
Yep.
She's also dazed. Okay.
Yeah, after she performs an action, it doesn't matter what action, she does that.
That's when she takes damage? Yeah, right.
Yeah. It says after performing an action. So I guess if she does more than one action in a turn, it would happen twice. Is that?
Oh,
and
yeah.
and it ignores resistance.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know what I was thinking putting a shugenja in my first combat that I'm running. Like, it's such a bad call. I don't know what the plan was. Okay. But I don't have her spells conveniently in front of it. Okay, here we go. Yep. So she begins to move, and she like looks towards you now, Shihei, and she like makes this like clawed fist movement. She's going to make a theology check. She's going to take that damage now. She's dazed too, right? So she has +2 to the target. What's your vigilance?
Yeah. Vigilance is 2.
Okay. Burning, dazed. Okay, nothing else. Condition heavy combat here. 2. Oh my, this is a nice roll. Okay, so she gets 6 successes. She takes a bunch of strife. She's still not unconscious from it. Okay, so she's going to curse you in the grip of anguish. Okay, so you are going to take damage equal to her watering plus Shadowlands taint disadvantage. She is here. Okay, so you'll take 3 plus 2, so 5 supernatural damage. So she like
Alrighty.
she's out and she like makes this like claw shape, and you can feel as if her hand is like inside your body, like tearing your insides. And that's going to be her turn. Then she's very much still on fire. And then it's your turn.
Yeah, Shihei will, seeing that this large samurai is still interposed between them, as much as he'd love to like fell this dark witch for doing what she's done. So he'll have to get through this man first. And seeing that he's already quite wounded, will like attempt to just put him out of his misery and end him now. And like, despite the fact that he's like dazed, like the fire of the spell still washing over him, and like the dust from this bandit guy, like stinging his eyes and his throat, he somehow manages to still get 4 successes, which will be a hit.
Yep. Okay. So let me figure out what. Oh, you have it there. Okay. So what guard increases the difficulty to hit him? Does it? Yeah.
It increases the person that he targets, which I think was
Yep.
not himself. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but he does have Crescent Moon style. So after another character performs an attack action targeting the Bushi, or another character the Bushi is guarding, the Bushi will perform a strike action targeting them. So he's going to strike back basically at the same time that you strike, sort of Sentinel-esque. So give me your damage.
All right. So yeah, he will take because he's bleeding. So he might actually, depending on what his fatigue is at. So that's just going to be the straight 4 from the katana.
Okay.
And then I also got an opportunity. So let me see what that will. Fire.
So he's bleeding, right? So he might die. Okay, let's find out.
All right, yeah, so he'll take 4 damage, yeah. And if he keeps any strife on a check, that'll also damage him.
Yeah. So he'll block that with his armor, the 4. But he's gonna strike back, and ooh, boy, that's a lot of strife.
I'm going to, again, actually might let him keep the strife. I'm not gonna make him re-roll one of the successes. I think that he might die.
I think he might also. So he gets 3 successes and 3 strife, which will kill him, but will hit you, I think. So you'll take 5, I think, right? Yep. 1 bonus success, so 5. So he like strikes out this like lets out his like ki, this and slashes. And as he does so, I guess like the force of it and the intensity with which he strikes is like the final straw. And like the blood is like pumping out of the wound that you put into him. And like as he like finishes the cut, the sword will fall from his hand and he'll fall down to his knees, and then face first into the pavement here on the patio. Very much dead.
All right, and I'm actually gonna need to okay, so god damn it, this game sometimes. I need to look something up because that would put me over my fatigue, but there's also a thing I might be able to do. I'm just gonna read this like 2 seconds.
Yeah, no worries. Kimura, you can go in the meantime.
Okay, so that does put me at my fatigue max. So I don't actually remember what specifically happens as a result of that.
I think you suffer
it might do a critical or something of that nature.
Too, yeah. Like, where is it? This book is weirdly laid out, and so much vital information is in the panels on the side.
Okay, wait. If actual character suffers, if fatigue exceeds their endurance.
the people who are watching are enjoying
Okay.
us just like reading through the rule book.
Just studying, just doing some studious review. So that will actually, I think will put me incapacitated.
Incapacitated. Okay.
Okay, yeah. So basically, which I've got that one up here already. So the character is largely incapable of action due to the scope of harm they've suffered. An incapacitated character cannot perform actions that require checks and cannot defend against damage. After an incapacitated character suffers a critical strike, they become unconscious in addition to whatever else.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically, I think the blow will cut into some part of Shihei, and he'll like fall down to his knees. He'll like try to stand up to continue to fight, but like the wounds are too great, and he's like it's not going to be able to take action. So he's not like unconscious or anything yet, but he is in a bad spot.
I definitely like to think it's that rad samurai thing where like you both step forward and like slice, and you both like take a few steps past each other, and then both fall.
Yeah.
To the ground. Okay, Kimura.
Okay, so seeing Shihei look, he's in trouble. Kimura is going to change stance into the water stance. And as he does so, he you can kind of see like he kind of closes his eyes and he does this motion with his hands as he's almost meditating, like, and I am going to, it's a support action and I'm disoriented, so this increases my thing by 2. I have to make a TN 2, so that'll be 4, but I'm going to do my 1 with the elements once per scene. I'm going to reduce my TN by my school rank, which will make this a 3 instead of a 4. But I'm doing a theology water check. And I'm going to try to cast what we call Touch of the Hot Springs on Shihei.
Okay.
Hopefully I succeed. So many dice. Okay, so when I do the, because you get to change one of the key. Well, you can't change my skill one, so that's perfect. Okay. Oh,
that's right. You're still afflicted.
Yeah, I'm still afflicted because I will be until, I don't know, forever.
Oh, you need a cleansing rite. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's...
And that's the, I didn't take it. Like,
so heavy.
I have an exploding success. I'm going to keep that. It's on one of my skill dice, so you don't get to change it. But do I do that before you change my dice, or do you change my dice first?
I think you get your final result, and then I change one, right? Yeah, so choose kept dice. The GM may alter one kept blank. Oh, I can change a blank one, right? To
So
a...
you can, that's a void ring, a void die. So you can change a black die to a strife and an opportunity.
Okay.
But the white skill die cannot be changed that way.
Okay, so what I'm keeping, just so you know, I'm keeping the only one ring die, and it has 1 success on it. So I'm assuming you're changing that to opportunity and strife.
Yes.
Okay, so that leaves me with 2 successes and an opportunity, one of which is an exploding success. So I'm going to roll that, which gives me another success. Yay! So that'll be a total of 3 successes, 2 opportunity, and a strife. I needed a TN3 to do this. So, Shihei, you are going to, where's my spell? You remove fatigue equal to my water ring and bonus. I didn't get any bonuses. So it'll be 3, get to remove 3 fatigue.
Awesome.
Plus I've got 2 opportunities. Do you still have conditions on you? Like you're still dazed yourself?
I guess that would be up to Lloyd if being knocked incapacitated would end those technically, or if they would stay.
Yeah. Well, I think I feel like afflicted doesn't go away, but the others would. Disoriented and
Yeah,
stuff
well,
would go away.
I'm not afflicted. Yeah.
Okay, so then I'm going to spend one of these opportunities that you can also remove strife. Oh, I don't have any bonus successes, so that's nothing. So I'll do something else with it.
That's a nice ritual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hero, for sure.
I would like to spend one of those to remove 2 strife from myself. Can I do that twice?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I'm going to remove 4 strife from myself. So not only did this ritual calm, but those who know me really well could tell that I was starting to become tense and emotional, and this ritual just kind of calmed me down, this invocation, and I'm back to the Kimura that you know. And that is my turn.
Okay, so with the power of the healing springs, Shihei is brought back from the brink. And Kimura finds peace. Zhang does not find peace, though he's looking at the situation and he's thinking, is this even worth it? That woman is on fire. This man is like summoning water powers, and there are 2 samurai here. So he's actually just going to cut his losses and run. He's going to run away from the fight and out the other side of the inn, and he's just going to run away. Udo.
Okay, Udo, being attacked from behind, just one is infuriating because it's number one is so dishonorable. It's not even. And as he turns, he sees that Zhang had already fled, but the one that stabbed him is there. And so I made a melee attack, and I will go ahead and keep 2 successes and 2 opportunity.
Okay, yep.
So added to my hammer, that's 10. And because I have ferocity, I cannot hold back when it comes to minion NPCs. I always kill minion NPCs.
Okay. Yeah, you pulverize them. Like it's like a Tarantino movie. There's just like this splat and poof, he's dead like twice over.
Yeah, so I imagine just like in this ferocity rage, just bam, bam, just hits with this hammer several times to where you get that squishy sound where it's just mush and blood, and turns with the tour and looks at this this witch at this point. And I'm going to go ahead and spend those 2 opportunity again with striking earth to increase my resistance.
Okay, nice. Yeah, there's just this like splat, and he is very much dead. There's like crunching bone. The other bandits are just gonna like, some of them scream in horror, and they're all going to run away. Like not interested in giving their lives for this. They're gonna run after Zhang. Then we go back to the top. Otomo is dead, but Sesai Oru is going to try one last particularly grim attack. She's going to, yeah, she's on fire. She's going to probably explode after she does this, so I'm not sure if it's worth it, but she doesn't think of death as a problem. She's going to like move her hands in this sort of clawed way again, and like over Otomo and the dead bandit, she's going to, as if she has like strings of puppets, she's going to raise them from the dead. The area around gains the defiled terrain quality. I'm not sure what that is, but she basically just and they like Otomo like rises from where he was, as does this like bandit with no head or like crushed head. They just like rise and will turn to try and murder you. Now she's going to. She's to roll for that, obviously. Which she's good at Earth. Yes, she is very good at Earth. Oh, but she is dazed. So she. Okay, yes. She will reroll this and this. Exploding. Okay, so she does succeed just enough. Yeah, so she will raise these corpses. Now I think with the burning, she's going to. So he just takes it. There's no like resisting it. God, that's such an intense condition. I like the conditions in this game. They're like real miserable. So that will not quite end her. Okay, so she raises these dead, and there's like this oppressive atmosphere that enters into the place, and like a smell of what maybe is like brimstone, and this like awful, just like sense of wrongness about the place, and that's going to be her Shihei.
Yeah, as if the other curses weren't enough, she's like so far gone in her corruption that she's like literally performed like at this point explicitly evil magic, and Shihei is not gonna have any of it. Like see her still writhing in the flames, and just try to like take a clean sweep across her neck, and stop her evil words from sprouting any further. So that is going to be 4 successes.
Okay. Yep.
Plus a strife, which will add a 5th.
Yep. She only has 4 left and doesn't have any armor, so you are going to definitely kill her.
Yeah, it'll just be a full, at this point, ruthless clean sweep. Like the battle started off with no hard feelings. At this stage, there are definitely some hard feelings. And just to stop her from saying any more evil, he just wants her to be gone. And we'll just take the katana and just bring it straight across her neck and through the back of her spinal cord and take her head off.
Yeah, it flies and like rolls along the ground, and you can hear the dong, 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 dong of the guy playing. The things that she has summoned, though, are not falling. They're still standing there, and they will go at the end of the round. So first we'll have Kimura.
Dang, I was hoping they would fall when she fell. Okay. Dang. So are they? Have they closed on Shihei?
So neither of them are actually in direct range. One of them is standing right behind Udo. I reckon Udo like splatted him and like turned around to look, and if he like turns around again, one of them has just like risen back up. While Otomo had like run past Shihei in their sort of like duel. So he was kneeling and he's standing. He's not engaged with him. He's probably at range band 1.
Okay, so I would like to kind of move in such a way that when I do this, Shihei is not in the range. Like I'm going to do a burst of air towards the creature on Shihei. So I don't think I can get both. So I'm going to go into the air stance, and as I start to chant under my breath, I will also finish it by blowing towards this creature that's now attacking Shihei, or behind Shihei. I'm making an attack action, so that doesn't count for the disoriented. So this is perfect. TN3. Okay, so I am keeping a ring die that has a success on it. The other two I'm not keeping. So I'm still afflicted, so you're going to change that one?
Sure am. Yep.
Yeah, okay. So that will, yeah, only be a 2. So I do not succeed in
It's probably the horror of seeing this. I don't know if like you ever would have seen something like this before. This like horrifying reanimation of the dead is like horror, because like the dead are very sacred, and like even touching a corpse is like a really, really awful thing. And so I think this is particularly gruesome and horrifying to see. So maybe Kimura is like not mentally prepared for it. Is that it for you, Kimura?
Yeah, I think I will spend the opportunity though to negate the strife. When you use that, remove 1 strife you gain from this check. So I will just have those 2 cancel, and that'll be the end of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a thing with the void dice that you can re-roll or something? I feel like that sticks.
So if you have void points,
point.
you can use a void point to roll an additional ring die on the check and keep an additional dice from your pool, all in one. You can also use a void point to do a shattering parry if that's also on the table.
It is. So you would all have 1. I think you start with 1. But if you wanted to roll an extra ring dice, you can do that now. But if not, it's okay.
Yeah, you start with void points equal to whatever your void ring is. Actually, it's your max and your starting value.
Yeah. I keep forgetting that. I'm okay with that. I'll use it next time if I have to, if I get a chance.
No problem. So Udo, you've like crushed this guy to a pulp, and you've seen the rest of them run away. And as you like turn to face this witch, you hear behind you this like gurgling like of this ruined man who stands back up again.
Yeah, and seeing this taint on this side of the wall would just infuriate Udo to the point to where he almost like inside is a burst of flame as he switches to fire stance, going full recklessness in his attack to take out the samurai that has risen. So, roll them bones. Yep, so I have 4 successes, and in fire stance, I gain an extra success per strife. So I have 2 strifes, so that's 6 successes plus my 8 damage.
Okay, so it'll be
minus his
12.
So that's 12.
Or 10. You got 6? You needed 2. Yeah, so
it'd be, well, it's 14 then minus his resistance.
Yeah, he has none. Oh no, he has 2. Decaying flesh. Okay, so you absolutely pulverize him. You like smash his rib cage, and it like many of the bones break and like fly out the other side. And he just like looks down and like falls into the dirt.
And then I can move. So I would try to position myself in front of this. There's one more creature, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and put myself in front of this creature between myself and my companions. And I have, where is it? I have Daredevil, so I can risk my life without consideration or hesitation, even in the potential of consequences that are obvious and dire. So I can just do it. Like, I'm not afraid of this thing.
Perfect. Yep. There is definitely like you of all people would not be as shocked because you've been to the wall and you've worked there for many years. But I think the innkeeper has run away and is probably screaming in horror at what she has seen. Only for the man is blind who's playing the instrument, you think he'd be gone too, and he can sense it. So because you didn't kill it with a sacred weapon, it's going to stand up again somehow and move over towards you. I'm going to try and get you. But it misses. It's just this like very lazy, it can barely even move anymore from how much damage you've done to it. Lazy sort of strike. The other one That one will connect just barely. So it'll be 3 damage, which I think you only take 1 because of your clothes. Yep. So it like goes up and like begins to chew on your arm, and that's it for them. And then Shihei.
It takes a lot to rattle Shihei's composure. He's like known through his school for being like the one who's always like too calm. But like even in this, even him in this scenario is like starting to feel this like strain eating at the edges of his mind. Like he's seen things that no man should ever have to see, and is enduring things that no man should ever have to go through. And I'll like see the Jesus, Udo like hit one of these things and like that should kill it, but then it like still just stands up again, and he'll just like turn to Kimura and just nearly shout like, "How do we get rid of these things? What do we need to do to kill them?" Just like expecting that she'll know or he'll know.
So I don't know if you've encountered them before, Kimura. You can try and make a check to see if you know, like have studied it maybe. So I'll say theology, and it'll be 3, T and 3, because I feel like it's pretty specific knowledge and like sort of high level knowledge. Because I don't know how often anyone is going to encounter like the dead like this and like the Maho, which is like the evil magic.
So yeah, I'm thinking that this is nothing that I would have been taught in school. So I'm theorizing what potentially from what I've seen and what I know of things. So I'm going to use the fire to do this theology check, which is kind of good.
I sense that there's so much stress and like fear in the air at the moment.
And you still get to change stuff on me.
That's right.
Right? Because I think it's any check, right? It doesn't have to be an attack. It's just like any.
I'm not going to do it on this because I just don't want to. I feel like you need to know how to do this or else it's going to take forever.
Okay, so I get to keep 2 dice. I'm keeping the exploding success 1. So we'll roll that. Okay, so that'll give me 3 successes and a strife.
Okay, so you think or you know that the best way to like deal with these things is either Jade or like sacred or blessed weapons. Finding that though they will fall from enough damage, but you're in this like defiled area, and so that's going to make them a little bit stronger than they usually would be. But if you hit them enough times, they will fall. Mechanically, the first time that they die, they'll get back up again once. If they're in the defiled area.
I basically tell them that in paraphrase it. Sacred, blessed weapons, or just keep hitting them until they stay down.
So if I can still take a turn from initiating conversation, I'll definitely try to hack the same one then. Otherwise, that'll be my turn. I don't know how you want to count it or not.
Yep, go for it.
Perfect. That'll just be 2 successes and an opportunity. Just a straight, clean hit.
Okay, yep.
Which will be for just the regular 4 katana damage.
Okay, so we'll resist 2 of that, so we'll there you go.
Sorry, I'm just thinking that if it might just be too late, but I might consider also changing stances. But I'll save that for next time because I already made the roll, so that's okay. So yeah, just straight 4 damage, so it'll reduce it by the 2, and I'll use the opportunity for something for fire. That is going to be.
So you like slash into this thing and you like sever its left arm at the elbow, and it goes into the dirt. It doesn't even seem to notice, and just like continues to stare hungrily at Udo.
Right. But for some reason, it needs to make a check to resist a critical. It'll increase the TN by 1. I'll use my fire opportunity to inflict that.
+1 TN crit. Okay. That was Shihei. So Kimura.
So now both of these creatures are actually engaged with
Udo.
both.
Yeah, but Shihei's there now as well. So yeah, they're all kind of in the same space. The stress of being a shugenja.
Do I just burn them all? Like, I don't know. It's a tough call. It is a super tough call. I wish you could choose if you could target less people, but they're all there. Knowing that if I try to do any of my magic, call upon the kami as I've done, I will hurt my own people. So I'm going to draw my wakizashi and try to stab this thing in the back.
Rad.
I don't know what I'm supposed to roll. Is that a martial arts melee then?
Yeah.
Okay. I should pick a stance. We're going to do air stance on this one. So I am lightly kind of moving around behind him, trying not to be touched as I stab at him. Okay, and TN is it? I'm gonna have to keep these two. So I'm keeping my ring die that you can affect. It just has an opportunity on it.
Okay, yeah, I will change it so you get a strife.
Okay, and I have the other two dice one is an exploding success and the other one is an exploding success with a strife.
Nice.
So I will keep both of those. Okay, which also gave me another exploding success.
Oh, damn.
Here. So we're going to do this again. Lots of strife, though. And a success. Okay, so comes down to 2, 3, 4 successes, 3 strife, and 2 opportunity.
Okay, and a wakizashi is 3 damage. Is that right?
Yeah, 3 damage. I don't understand the deadliness, what that means, but there's also two-handed. It's +2 DLS.
Yeah, the
Deadliness is what level of crit that she'll deal if you inflict a critical hit.
Okay.
Okay, so I think with just the damage, you'll take one of them down because you got so many successes. So the one that hasn't been struck down yet, you're able to like come up behind it, and it's like totally focused on Udo, and you can just like slice like through most of the neck, and it like the head lolls forward and then like disconnects from the body onto the ground, and it will like fall to its knees and then fall backwards, and like this black blood will like pour forth from it.
And there's still one up?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to use the 2 opportunities that I've got on this dice to increase my TN on the next. Oh, I guess it's a ranged check targeting me. That doesn't make sense. I don't know what to do.
Maybe just remove strain or something, right? Okay.
Can I do that with air?
I'm not sure. I don't know. Have a look.
Yeah, go ahead. I think I'll keep a ring set to an opportunity result from my next martial skill check. So I'll do that twice.
Cool. Udo.
Okay, so I made my roll. I'm still in fire stance. So I'll take 2 more strife for a total of 5 successes.
Yeah, you pulverize this one that had risen up again. The hammer is so good. You just like splat, like crush the head entirely and like drive it down into the body, and it just like falls now, twitches, but will never rise again. And as you do that, the other one that had been killed for the first time rises back up again. And Shihei, it's your turn.
Alrighty, at this point, the plan is just to kill them until they stay dead, and that is what we will do. Oh, Jesus, pretty good.
This one has no head, and so it's just making this like gross trickling gurgle noise as it reaches blindly in your direction.
Alrighty, so that is going to be 3 successes. So that'll be 5 damage total. I'm actually going to switch at this stage. She is going to try to resolve himself to keep calm. Like the one thing that like has defined his training. He doesn't want to lose it, even in the face of chaos. So he's going to switch into Void Ring. So that'll prevent him gaining any additional strife from his checks, which is good because I'm getting dangerously close to that limit. So I will not suffer any of the 2 strife that I normally would have gotten. And then the opportunity, I have 2 opportunity, which were void. Does not matter now. I'll figure something out later.
Yep. So it got.
I'll actually just use the 2 opportunity to do a. I don't know if these things can be crit, but if they can, I'll hit them with a crit.
They actually have a special thing. Increases the TN of checks to resist critical strikes inflicted by zombies. Oh no, that's fine. You can crit them.
Perfect. I'll do so. I'll spend the 2 opportunity to deal a 5 deadliness crit.
Okay.
Is this the same one that I hit with the fire one from before, or is it the one that died? The +1
This is the one that
additional crit thing.
It's the one that Kimura killed just recently. So this is the one that hasn't died before. Had just died before now. So you haven't hit this one.
Okay. So yeah, it'll make fitness check then. Otherwise, we'll suffer all the normal effects.
Fitness. Well, it doesn't have that either. I guess it just makes Earth. It's a big fat nothing.
Perfect. So that'll be Katana's 5. Yes, it's 5. So that'll be a debilitating gash. Suffers a severe wounded condition on whatever ring that they used for the check, and it will also suffer the bleeding condition.
Okay, I'm just going to say that
it's a
because it'll die as soon as it starts its turn. So you like manage to slash through and like from the shoulder to the hip, like sever this thing in half, and finally it hits the ground and actually dies. There's still this like awful energy in this sort of circle around where the table was, where she had like done this terrible thing, and that will linger. Kimura, you will know that will linger until this place is cleansed. It will not go away with time. And yeah, so finally, like they stop twitching and moving and stop getting up, and there's like a relative quiet apart from still the man who's playing his instrument out in the courtyard and the sort of screams of the innkeeper.
Yeah, part of Shihei wants to just like fall onto the ground now. Is just to get out of this area. But he'll just look over to the shugenja, expecting that she'll know. What do we need to do with the bodies? Is there anything to make sure that they don't, and just kind of like trail off, looking at the headless zombie that they just killed?
I don't know. Burn them, I guess. I don't. Or cleanse their bodies. If someone here could cleanse this, I mean, this area is now tainted. This woman was evil. She's left her mark here.
You can see her blackened corpse like burned and her hands still in that sort of like rictus of claw shape.
Yeah, Udo would just kind of like like spit as if he's trying to get a bad taste out of his mouth. And I don't know, maybe I can make a roll or something as far as I don't know what else we could, I mean, without the ability to cleanse.
Yeah, it's a tough decision. Without a shugenja who can cleanse the place, like it might not be an over-exaggeration to say that you should burn it to the ground.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Like it will will literally be like a beacon for things from the Shadowlands to come here, and like a way for them to enter, and like a way for Oni to whisper, and it's like really, really, really bad. And so that's kind of like up to you guys what you want to do. But I think we might call it there for this evening. And we can like you can have a think about what you want to do with this poor innkeeper's inn, and we can pick it up next time. So thanks very much for playing, guys, and thanks for watching if you did.